I am of the pure mind of God. I am the resurrection and the life in my body, my finances, my relationships, and my world. I qualify everything in my world with perfection. I am perfection. I am this perfect day, and the life that lives in me is the light that cannot fail. I accept only God's perfection, His good, in my outer circumstances. I know in my heart that God is all in all. I am absolutely not concerned about what happens, because I know wonderful things are happening now.
Greetings. I'm going to take you to the beach. Well, we're going to walk by the water together, and we're going to talk about the new man. You know, I have a really, really extraordinary gift for you. In fact, all this is going to get recompiled and reorganized, and I've recognized that, 700 transmissions I've done since this ministry began, and out of that, we have maybe a dozen tools and techniques and useful, transformative trainings and workshops. They're the best of the best, where we distill it down and it becomes something viable, tangible. Well, something new. There's something new that is going to be your new best friend. Something that I have yet to create today, and it's already laid out. Everything is done. It's all channeled and inspired work. And it's coming in the New Man Workshop. Now, again, here's the deal. I've made the opportunity to be in the new man affordable to anyone. It's between you and God. It's whatever you want to sow. Sowing into God's work is an opportunity. It's not a curse. It's an opportunity for you to recognize that when man thinks he's giving, he's receiving. It really is a fact. There's nothing you can get in this world, and if you try to get, it really is what sets up the whole poverty mentality. As Mary Baker Eddy said, an unselfed love receives immediate divine power. An unselfed love. So, putting myself into the position of being unselfed in my love, the expression of the quality of love that God owns. I don't own it, I just get to express it. That's where the transmission comes through me, and I've noticed this going all the way back to the beginning of my life. By the way, the links are below if you want to skip right to it, and you want to hear the transferred, monologue, if you will. I just turned into the Christ within, and I put it to words, and I've laid out over the past week everything for this training. It's going to be very, very simple, and you're going to really like it. So what I'm saying is that if you want to do it, it's between you and God. Sow a faith seed, plant a seed, and prove to yourself that you can't outgive God. The universe provides. There's no such thing as poverty or scarcity or lack. All right? Now, with that said, my whole life I've had these glimpses where I've been able to channel. I've been able to do it happened in sports all the time. I just go into a free flow and no thought. And then I carried it forward at these glimpses of moments, especially in my early 20s. It's like this stream began coming through me, and I started channeling, spiritually speaking. Well, I can look to where all that really began. I began listening to and the sutras, Deepak Chopra's Everyday Immortality. I began really tuning in to the still voice within, the presence, the Christ. And I became obsessed with it. And in that obsession, because of it, I had a need, right? I had a perceived human problem. The eating disorder thing was the reason why I did it. I said, I'm kind of screwed here. I need to go to the divine source. And then I felt the nirvana, that the mystics talk about this, the atonement. I felt the nirvana state of bliss. And in that moment, I was set free from bulimia and anorexia. Just instantly set free. Instantly. The next day it was gone. It hadn't been gone in 5 years. It was gone, and 3 weeks later I hadn't had an episode, and I realized it was gone. God set me free from that condition just in one glimpse of the presence of the Christ within. That's what it means to touch the garment. In the Bible, when the bleeding flesh, okay, you could call it the bleeding flesh, touches the spirit, the perfection of all that is, it wipes away the problem, because God isn't thinking of a problem. And so then we become atoned with God's thought. Not because of anything we do, but by grace. All right, so after that experience, that began bleeding through me. And I would be, I'd be at a health club where I spent most of my time. And I would just start talking, and then another consciousness would just poof, take over, and I would just flow. And then people around me would be like, whoa. And I remember this kid I grew up with, his name was Matt too, as well. And he used to call me the Bishop. He'd be like, Bishop Swole. He called me Bishop Swole, because all I did was work out and talk about God. I see nothing has changed really, but that's it. That's the thing. That's Bishop Swole. I just sort of became Bishop Swole. He saw it coming a long time sooner than it actually happened. But there was a part of me that would just surrender. And what I'm going to show you in the new man is I'm going to coach you into that same phenomenon. And what that is the surrender of the false sense of human control for the realization of divine control that already is. And so I was able to get out of the way and just allow the divine to emerge as the only principle of activity in my mind. And so then that transmission would come right through like that. And that's the inspired word of God when it comes through you that way. And so what God has put on my heart and what I've got for you in the new man transmission is something to give you the ability to do that as well. You may be doing it at varying levels now. And for where I'm at right now, it's to the point where I don't even know what was said or anything. When I go into flow, it's really not me anymore. It's the same as, years ago I went and watched, Bashar do his thing, and he's like, good day to you, my friends, and all of a sudden this transmission came through, and I felt it. I said, yeah, he's definitely channeling something there. And, what I do is I turn to the divine mind and go to first principle, and then instantly it just transfers over, and all of a sudden the message comes out, and then I can feel when I kind of want to come back, and I'm like, okay, I want to come back and become, the personality again, right? And so then the personality of, Matthew comes back and the transmission ends. And, going in and out like that all the time is really what happens here. And so I've got it laid out for you, similar to what the sutras have done, and they helped me do. And you could do those as well. Those are really, really powerful. Those are very, very effective. And I have another way for you to do it as well. And this is more particularly in regards to your financial supply and your supply of all of your human needs. So this is engineered for you to become the witness to the Christ amid any circumstance that seems to come in the outer. And it was confirmed to me last night when I watched the movie Cinderella Man, where it depicts this, legendary hero back in the Great Depression. And I thought, a depression is one of the stupidest things that mankind ever tolerates. The supply did not diminish. It's just that everybody propagates fear collectively like a mass hysteria. It's a mass form. It's called mass form psychosis. All right. It's the same thing that people did when they were, I guess when they get the things on the time, and they're like, hey, what's going on? You're like, I can't hear you. Your face is covered. They're like, it's fear brings on this collective beehive mass form hysteria. And it's called mass form psychosis. It's a real thing, according to the human mind. And that thing is what creates what you call recession and depression. That doesn't have any existence in God's economy whatsoever. None. And it doesn't have to touch your life ever. Ever. So when I watched that movie, I said, it's one of the stupidest things humanity ever put up with. They got fleeced and robbed. It was an inside job, obviously, as most things are, and then they had to go beg in bread lines from the very people that robbed them to get their own supply back. But that's what you get when you look to the world out there for your supply. If you're going to look to a bad taskmaster for what you're going to get for supply, you're going to get what they're going to give you, all right? So the whole idea with this new man transmission is, I want you to hear it. This is channeled. I channeled it. And I want you to hear it for yourself, and you resonate with your own soul what you want to do. I would certainly do it. I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't waste another minute. I don't know why anybody who's ever listened to me won't do this, other than the fact that they have some unforgiveness toward me. And I just want to say, hey, if there's anything I did out of my ego that has offended you, I sincerely apologize. And I recognize that, here's the deal. The engine in this baby drives. I'll get you from point A to point Z. Definitely, because the transmission comes from the source. And, it's kind of like when you're in your car, you may be a little offended because when you don't put the seatbelt on, it goes ding, 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 and you're driving along and you're like, oh, God, would you just get that ego out of the way? Just get that ego out of the way. Well, put the belt on, So when I put the buckle on, it's basically subduing the ego. I just restrain the ego, and the divine comes. And I'm learning. See, my steps were already laid out just like yours, so my ministry is moving to atone now, add one. Well, there's the lesson right there. The next phase and the next evolution for me as a minister in this cycle is complete abandonment of self. And that's been happening more and more and more over the past 2.5, 3 years, to the point now where I feel excited about it. I really do. Because the principle is true, and unselfed love receives immediate divine power. It really is unselfed. An unselfed love is the admission of the Christ being all in you, as you, and through you, and around you. And so every lesson you're going to get in the new man is, here's what it looks like. You are going to tune in to the Christ. You are going to be the new man. And then you're going to join me in the classroom setting, and we are going to look at the scripture inspired by the Christ, the red letter words, if you will, and we're going to read it as the Christ, not looking for a Savior, but looking as the Savior. That's a major, major difference. So you're going to atone with the Christ, step one. Then you're going to reinforce it with the authority of the written word as the Christ, because in reality, you wrote the written word of the gospel. I know that probably, bakes your noodle just a bit, and you can't really wrap your, legs around that one. But here's the big deal, is that if you knew who you really were, all form in 3D time and space would be null and void of any causation for you from that point forward. In other words, that big zero, that big giant waxy ball that you call this human existence that you allegedly live on, would be collapsed into its native nothingness, and you would walk standing corrected as the uplifted and elevated consciousness of the I am presence, the living Christ. Now, you can get this conceptually. You can understand this because you know that there are trillions of cells inside of you, right? And, well, are all of those cells like kind of self-aware? Are they all autonomous? Do they act outside of your will? Do they? Can they? Well, they can. Let's say if you became paralyzed and you wanted to move your arm, but yet those cells wouldn't act in harmony with you and your arm wouldn't move, well, then you would have a dysfunction. Now, here's the big idea. When your will is carried forward through trillions of cells, then it becomes a one consciousness phenomenon. And that's exactly what we are as individualized cells within the presence of the I am Christ. We are supposed to be at one. We are supposed to operate as the one consciousness. And the only way to do that is to put that seatbelt buckled on and restrain your ego, because the ego has this idea. The ego believes that by taking outer action and trying to manipulate and coerce and force things and do all sorts of schemes and plans, that it is actually being in control, when the dielectric opposite is being set up at the very onset to create the very resistance by that immediate action. So it really is a non sequitur. It does not follow that beingness in control needs to adjust itself at any point of time and space, because if it is in control, then it's already running a perfect universe. And that is the fact of life. And so when you contemplate that God is running a perfect universe right here, right now, right where you stand is holy ground, you no longer have to operate from egocentric awareness. And then you become the impersonalized heliocentric consciousness of divine love. Then you exude out of that space a channeled transmission that becomes the will of God, and the arm moves again. The power of God, the right hand of God begins to move in your life. You see, you're no longer operating as a paralyzed self that is allegedly having its own will in defiance and disobedience to a divine will. There's a lot there for you to take in. So I just give you these things, and your consciousness has its own way of assimilating and accepting these truths. So my mission is clear, and my mission is already complete for those who say yes, is you're going to rise out of matter. By the end of this workshop, you're going to have revelation. And in that revelation, you will get a glimpse, and you will get a satisfactory approval, according to your five senses, that you have arrived, if you will. And where will you arrive? You're going to arrive in the New Jerusalem, the new ascended man, who you are called to be to begin with. So what that will look like is that you will be grounded and centered in the moment. You'll no longer be fleeting off in time and space, trying to use your ego to create all good things for you, because you will have no use for any of that being out of control, because you will be in control, refusing to deviate from your resting in peace, from your dead to the world, alive in spirit position of being atoned. And from that acceptance that you already are the heir to all good, because you are the reflection or the son or descendant of the living Christ, and that is the only man that was ever created by God, then you stand corrected in the moment. And as you stand corrected, then all falsehood begins to fall off of your life. All falsehood begins to fade away into the nothingness from where it came, because it is nothing, and it never was anything. All of the evils that you behold are not there. And so, consequently, and unabashedly, it's I probably knew this was coming, but I wanted to go, but I realized that it's not my place of authenticity. Is I did not show up at the Truth Tour today in Des Moines to speak on that roster, because I simply can't, because that's not my truth. That's not truth. My truth is not to point out all of the evils in this world and what I'm going to do about it. That's not my truth. My truth is to know that God alone is, and to stand corrected in that position, willing to go down believing in that for all of eternity, and to refuse to move from that position. That's my truth. And I know that there are many human, which means H-U-E, man, which means the coloring of the law, which from that position it's already deficient and ignorant of its own existence. The human mind, they say, wow, this is some Pollyanna stuff you're saying. It's just not believable. There is so much evil out there. You simply must be alert. You must be aware. And I just refrain, and I remember that, when wisdom has chosen you, then you shall know the truth. But until that moment, there's no use casting pearls on swine, because they can't receive it. Okay? And so, consequently, I recognize that my message is here, and those who are meant to hear it will find it. I need not go out and speak my truth into an environment where it will only be completely just like that. No reason for it. So also I won't be on the tour in Vegas either. So just for anybody that was coming to see me, I've meditated, I've prayed upon it, and I recognize that it is not my calling to change the world. And I don't believe that's either a good or a bad thing. I don't have any judgment in regards to anyone who's on their own spiritual path. But my truth is that my calling is to ascend out of the false world of fashion, form, ego, materiality, and good and evil powers ascribed to things and objects which are inert matter and have no intelligence whatsoever. So my truth is to stay in that root and to continue to blossom from that root. And so what I've developed, and I will be restructuring everything, and it will eventually come under the Atone brand. Once that starts to take foundation, it's already been established. Now it's starting to conceptualize in my mind, and I'm going to create what you call a spiritual super system. And in that spiritual super system, it will allow at any level where someone comes along to reach out and grab the next step without possibly being alienated or offended or, oh my gosh, I can't accept that. That's just too much. Well, the idea is that you only have to take the next step at every point you're at. And so my new structure of everything will be allowing those to come in and just choose the next step and work with that next step, and just to take it one step at a time. Because out of the 700 plus transmissions that I've done, this has all been a, like put me in the spiritual studio and give me paintbrushes and then just put white paper everywhere, and I just go. And then at the end of the day, I start to look and I see, oh, look, there's a cute little picture over there. Okay, there's something that looks good over there. And then I begin to take that stuff and I begin to turn that into my art. And so the art that I have is the art of, I would say it's the art of allowing, but it's beyond the art of allowing. And it's even beyond the art of aligning. It's the art of atoning. Okay? And please, by all means, please, if you listen to my transmissions and your desire is to take what I say and to repackage it as your own words, please reconsider, because that is something that you should honor just a little bit by saying, hey, I heard this from, and then at least mention where you heard it from, because it dilutes the source when you try to take somebody else's word for word stuff and package it as your own content, because you don't have all of the message to back it up with. So it really is helpful, and I work on doing this myself. So when I say, God is running a perfect universe, I tell you that, I learned these things from Joel Goldsmith, Herb Fitch, Mary Baker Eddy, Andrew Womack, Kenneth Copeland. There are so many people who've influenced my walk and my journey that when I put together my art, each stroke may be inspired by a certain artist, but I will not package it word for word as the cover song that they wrote. Okay, so I just want to say that. I just want to lovingly put that out there, because I've noticed a couple times, maybe more, that there have been covers made of my work and they don't share the idea that it's a cover from a work that I've done which hasn't been heard to the world before, really. A lot of this stuff really is channeled, and I do copyright it, so just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to own deity. I'm just saying that if you're going to share the message, share where it comes from, so that you don't inherently obstruct someone's ability to get the entire message. Because if you don't have the entire message, you can't give the entire message. I can't give you what science and health can give you with Key to the Scriptures. I can share with you that I've learned a lot from it, and I can give you my honest evaluation of Mary Baker Eddy as probably one of the finest, if not the finest, protege of Christ that really I've ever seen in this realm, okay? And I can admire her work, and I can say she is something. And the best of my ability will be to tell you that, when you operate in unself-love, you receive immediate divine power. That is from her book, okay? So by telling you that, it allows you to go to that source and get the whole transmission for yourself, so you get the whole context and the meaning. Because when things are out of context, that's how things get twisted and distorted into, oh, this is just some Pollyanna quackery. She's just saying you can think yourself well and then you'll just be healthy again. Well, that's not the truth. If you read the whole book, it has way more to do with the idea that you are already perfect, and it is the human thought that is the obstruction to what already is. Okay? So just a little honor, just a little sowing of honor would be kind once in a while. And I know a lot of people do, and hey, I know a lot of people are like noticing that my whole world has changed. And some people don't resonate with that because we have to make a new agreement. See, I do understand very, very well how relationships work now, and how we relate to anything is how we relate to everything and everyone. And so as my world has changed in regard to how I relate, like Michelle and I are being in the togetherness, experiencing of the intimate love. And, I've broken a systemic cycle of codependency, which happens to be the last vestiges of what the ego mind does to hold you back from letting complete surrender take over your life and become the Christ. All right? I let that go systematically, and because of that, everything changed. And so what changed on the surface of things was the revelation of the correct arrangement of what God has ordained, not what human will hath pursued. So what you saw in the beginning of the ministries, and I tell you, it goes from allow, and then it goes to ask until it is given, then it goes to trust, okay, then it goes to 0 point, ultimate truth is love, then it goes to love, living the good life, and it goes to atone, being in togetherness. So when I began my ministry as allow, there was a heavy degree of ego personality involved in this process. And so the glimpses of truth are coming through, just as they do through all, that are chosen by wisdom to profess, truth. There are varying degrees that come through that vessel. Okay? And so the inaccuracies that are getting cleaned up are because of the surrendering of the personality at every juncture through a process of humility. And so as I began embarking on humility and what that means and how I can exude that divine quality, I began systematically breaking apart codependent cycles and patterns that bind us to the world of form, so that we are no longer able to flow as the Christ, because you can't be the Christ and another self living a separate life in another reality. You can't be both at the same time. So as you surrender more of you, your relating experience changes, because you're changing how you relate to the principle of the Christ. It also changes how you relate to everything and everyone. And it begins to reorganize according to the original blueprint. And so what you see is what is now. And this is the ministry moving from this position to the atone position. And so as it gets closer and closer, it will go in this direction now. And so I've noticed that in my relating with those who were part of this side, we need to make a new agreement so you can come over here with me. Because what you may be unconsciously offended by or triggered by, even unbeknownst to yourself, is, you're like, God, that darn seatbelt thing keeps going off. I can't listen to him. That's actually the ego saying, hey, we don't have an agreement anymore. Our agreement was, he's over here with me. Well, what you guys have to understand is I left. I'm over here now. And I'm going to invite you to make that new agreement with me if you want to come with me, so you can receive what I have to offer you. And it's going to require forgiveness on your part as well as it did for mine. And forgiveness means to yield before. It means to allow the divine principle to reorganize itself so that harmony is the only established fact. So if you'd like to come on that journey with me, then I invite you to go to a place of sense, spiritual sense, not material sense. Go to a place of spiritual sense and integrate with your higher self right now. Just close your eyes and go to a place of spiritual sense. Now, from the position of reflecting true life from your higher self's vantage point, from that perspective, ask your higher self to go to the place of planning and to join with me in the place of planning. And ask your higher self to bring to you whatever is beneficial to you from this position of our relationship in a way that you can harmoniously receive and take that nourishment if you so choose to do so. And if you choose to end the relationship at this point, then maybe ask your higher self to end this relationship on a loving, kind note so that there is no resentment or bitterness or, pointing the blame or whatever unconscious patterns come, because at every point when we leave one and go to another, the so-called fallout, you see, is a destructive cycle, and we always go through creative and destructive cycles through our ego and through our human experience. We go through creation and destruction. And if we have entered a destructive cycle over here, then we must create over here. Otherwise, if we stay rooted over here in our awareness, then the perceived fallout is all we focus on. And that can hold you back for a long time. So, an example of that, every time I've had a change of course in life, every season that comes to an end, if you will, that's called a destructive cycle. Now, the joy begins leaving, the passion starts fading, our interest becomes less, and we kind of coast. And whenever we start coasting, the only way to coast is downhill, just downhill. So that is the destructive cycle coming into whatever we are engaging with in that illusion of us doing something in the world. It's an illusion. If we continue to focus on the destructive aspects of it, then we continue to relate to destructive forces, and we begin to relate with those everywhere we go. Soon our relationships become destructive. Soon our finances are destructive, because we relate to anything and everything all in the same. So what I invite you in this relationship with me to do is to relate at the highest level, sensing only harmony, allowing and agreeing to only harmony from our place of reasoning together, okay? From the place of planning through the spiritual sense of reasoning, not human reasoning, and to receive the bread of life that is prepared for you on this day. Because wisdom is always trying to come to you, and it will always try to reach you through a relationship. And so if you have chosen this to be your relationship, then how you break codependent patterns, which are the destructive cycles, okay, by the way, how you break the codependent pattern is you must evolve that relationship. You must move it from over here to over here. And you can only do that through the power of the living Christ within you, through the higher self, if you will, and going back to the place of planning and redoing the deal. So go to your higher self again and say, listen, let's go to the place of planning and redo the deal with Matthew David. Let's redo the deal. I would like to receive the highest value in this relationship possible with no strings attached and no fallout. or whatever you want to experience. Because there are as many Matthew David as you can imagine. See, every single being that is a soul consciousness, an individualized self within the I am awareness of the divine self. And by the way, someone asked the question, they say, oh, you contradict yourself with self-image and this and that. Well, no, I've never contradicted myself. Myself is my capital S-E-L-F, and that never changes. That is the Christ. That is your self-image. Any other self-image, the purpose of that is to updraft itself and align with the capital self. And that's what we do through relationships. And that's what you can do with me right now. And by proxy, you can use our relationship to change your relationship with money, to change your relationship with your body, to change your relationship with everything. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. So for those who have held on to grudgements or any kind of peeve or any kind of upset based on seeing what's changing in my life, this is your opportunity to evolve what's going on in you, because this is all happening in you, because you are externalizing me in the way that suits your evolvement at this time, and it's your choice to remain codependent or to ascend into the harmonious being and the togetherness of divine love itself. You are only having one relationship ever, the relationship with Christ. So there's your golden tell. You have no other relationships. Your relationship with money sucks? No. Your relationship with Christ sucks. Your relationship with your partner sucks? No. Your relationship with Christ sucks. Your relationship with your health sucks? No. Your relationship to the divine mind sucks. And if your life sucks, it means you suck, right? Larry Winget? Larry Winget said that. See, I give him credit. See, I give him credit. He said that. I will paraphrase that and say, if your life sucks, you suck. Not the you that is the capital self-image, but you as the ego personality that is codependent and looking for a fight and looking for a reason and looking for trouble, trying to eschew trouble as your truth and trying to change the world. Yes, you suck, because you're not witnessing God's truth. And you're telling it the way that it will be. So let me ask you a riddle here. Who creates a depression? Who creates a financial depression? Well, let me solve that one for you real quick. Well, first of all, there is no financial depression. But in the dream, those who create it are the ones who are trying to help you, that are like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they're like, every one of their little video thumbnails is all about, it's over, the markets are bleeding. All they are doing is they are creating the very thing that they try to tell you that they are solving. And so, in fact, they are the evil ones. All the ones trying to help you are the ones hurting you. Welcome to the illusion. Now, if you'd like to leave the illusion behind and you'd like to say, I've had enough of that crap, then you have to be the new man. You don't get to live in that world and fix that world. That world is not your world. Welcome to reality. You have to ascend out of it. You must go within, not out. The new man has the tools for you to do it. It is the inspired work that you are asking for. But first you're going to have to change how you're relating to what you think I am, because you only have one relationship, how you relate to Christ. And so I am your reflection. I am you. I am what you see in me, you are. And so if you would like to updraft that, then please take the invite and watch this video again and go ahead and do that. And then enter into the pearly gates of the New Jerusalem with what I have to share with you, so you can receive what is reaching you at this moment. And so with that said, my transmission is complete, and I thank you for being on this journey with me. I really, really urge you to join me in that new man course. I'm super excited about it. I had no idea what God was doing. I just said yes to the opportunity. And, you know, it all comes in its own time. I don't qualify or judge it. I just say yes, like yes, man, yes, man, yes, man, yes. And God says, God, I've got a willing one. Let's go to work. And now it's here. Now it's ready. Holy man, am I excited. This is just like when I created the RIP app, which, by the way, if you're not using it 5 times a day, you really aren't listening to me at all. And so you might want to listen and change your relationship with me real quick so that you can receive, because how you relate to anything is how you relate to everything. Isn't that funny that people that, want to relate to people, like you'd watch 39 minutes and 19 seconds of this video. You got this far and you haven't yet changed your relationship with me to receive what I'm actually saying. See, until you do that, you are hearing what you want to hear through the filter of who you were being, according to what you have decided in the past. I'm asking you to upgrade that as your first initiate step into our new relationship together. And who are you relating to? No, it's not Matthew David, it's not immortal. You are always relating to life itself, because there is no other relationship. So say hello to the new you, the all-inclusive version of you that is welcoming life to express more divine love and casting aside judgments so that you shall not be judged. You see? There's the teaching of Christ right there for you. All right, now it is 90 degrees and it is humid, so I am sweaty and I'm going to cut the transmission, and I am so grateful for you. And I am so in the being of togetherness with you. And I am love. And you are love. And that is my relating with you. Selah.